How can organisations be COVID compliant and ensure a safe and legally, ethically sound return to work? We are a team from a number of firms and institutions, the University of Surrey Law and Technology Hub, working with global legal change and data consulting firm D2 Legal Technology, D2L and KroniKare, a medtech company, on our challenge to address opening up after lockdown. Having passed the first peak of COVID-19 infections, we look forward to returning to work. But given the continuing health risks, large organisations from shopping centres to construction sites to universities are all trying to reopen safely. How will employers satisfy their duty of care to ensure the safety of employees, visitors, students, customers, clients and suppliers? This requires balancing a host of competing responsibilities and interests. To create a safe place to come back to, medtech will be crucial to minimise the changes to life as we used to know it. One of KroniKare's solutions allows firms to easily and automatically take the temperature of hundreds of people in a large gathering or area. There are, of course, many other additional controls and checks we might need to have, for example, tracking and social distancing. Such testing and monitoring raises data privacy problems around the collection, analysis, and management of health data. Organisations must satisfy legal and compliance, plus health and safety requirements, and also must be perceived as trustworthy and ethical by stakeholders. Our team's challenge is to map out and mitigate the legal and ethical risks concerning deploying COVID-19 on-site screening to help employers open up after lockdown.
From a medical perspective, COVID-19 poses unique challenges for mass screening. Firstly, there is a silent incubation period during which many people display no symptoms. Secondly, when people do display symptoms, they are of varying severity and the symptoms are heterogeneous. And thirdly, antigen testing is a one-off assessment and is not 100% sensitive. But we do know that the majority of people have a cough and a temperature. One of our solutions uses the premise of temperature screening in a mass environment. We mesh facial recognition features and distance using thermal cameras and 3D cameras. The result is an AI-based tool capable of performing 5,000 screenings per day in a completely automated system. And this is designed to be deployed in areas where footfall is large, like school gates, places of worship, shopping centres, and construction sites.
From shopping centres, construction sites to universities, they all face the challenge of having to amend their relationship with the individuals, be they employees, customers, corporate entities, or tenants, or in the case of universities, students. A lot of the relationships between these parties will need to be amended contractually. For example, in order to facilitate use of KroniKare's automated temperature technology, whereby an individual agrees to carry and use an app on their smartphones when they're on site. This is important, and for all of these actors to contractually agree to this so that the employer or entity in charge of a site can perform their role and discharge their duty of care to everyone on that site. Consider the shopping centre context. Many contractual agreements may be required between the shopping mall itself, shops, tenants, employees, and customers. Further agreements between individual shops and their customers. And then consider the customer. Will they need to sign agreements with every shop they enter? Does the customer genuinely have a choice to negotiate contractual terms in order to enter a shop? How much of their personal data is being shared with lots of different organisations? A student of a university will need to enter into a contract with his or her university, but also with a variety of shopping centres they might visit.
So listening to Peter, we have a real problem. Just how many agreements are we going to have in place floating around? How practical is the management of that? The number of agreements between different individuals and entities? So our solution creates a multilateral contractual amendment mechanism, a protocol that eliminates the need for all of these bilateral contracts, terms and conditions, and replaces them with just one agreement or one sign-up. And this is managed by the same app that creates the personal data account and manages the dashboard that Glenn will be discussing shortly. So the individual goes into the app and they sign up to this protocol as part of it. Now, that signing up to the protocol represents the individual pre-agreeing that as between them and anyone else that signs up to the protocol, so other individuals, shopping centres, universities, shops, etc., that there will be a deemed agreement that comes into place as soon as both two people have signed up to the protocol, unilaterally, of course. And the terms of that deemed agreement are that they will agree to use the app, carry it around with them to facilitate, for example, KroniKare's thermal monitoring that we've seen earlier through Hussein. And it could be extended to other monitoring or other information that one might need. So you have that side of the arrangement. You also have the other side of the arrangement whereby the person controlling this site, maybe the employer, the university, the shopping centre, the shop, for example, also agrees in terms of how they will use that information to create that safe place that we can go to all of a sudden. And so just to recap, you've got the individual adhering to the protocol in one place, and you've also got each of these institutions signing up to the protocol, but only once, but it affects multiple bilateral agreements between all of these individual actors. So what have we done? We've helped to discharge the responsibility, the duty of care on these places that we're seeking to return to employers, helping them to create a safer place to work. Now, the only thing left is that the entity, the shopping centre, the university, could be a construction site, just needs to match up the adherences to make sure that both the entity, the place, and the individual turning up to that place have adhered to the protocol and matching the two. Now that cross-check is managed within the app itself using private identifiers known only to the individual and the employer as part of the app setup. So adopting this solution, we can hopefully rest easy from the deluge of contractual terms and adherence needed to enable safe return to these places that we really miss in a post-lockdown world.
If an organisation is to use technology to help safe return to work, then we also need to address the question of personal data management. For such systems to work, we need to be able to contact the individual if they're ill, which means linking their potential symptoms with their contact details. That means personal data, which may create problems and link us to GDPR. We can use centralized databases. That's potentially problematic and may give rise to both technical, legal, moral, and ethical questions being asked about organizations holding such data. Now, there are other solutions. We can use decentralized databases, such as that provided by DataSwift, whereby every individual is assigned their own personal data account. Using this approach through a PDA makes the individual the data controller rather than the organization, who would be the data controller for a centralized database. Their information is held in that account and processing is done within the account. Their data is private to them and any results are shared with their knowledge. Through the protocol contractual framework, the individual has agreed to this way of returning to work, whereby the individual uses the apps and allows the employer to utilize the data as is required to create that safe environment. This provides both a privacy-preserving solution, a solution that is legally compatible with GDPR, and one that addresses the individual concerns about ethics and privacy of their data.
We propose a terms management return to work protocol that enables organizations to open up after lockdown. We will build it on an app, allowing both organizations and individuals to contract simply and rapidly, giving organizations the required permissions to use technology, such as KroniKare's automated temperature screening, to keep people safe. Our system enables organizations and individuals to work together to discharge their duty of care, and we use decentralized data management to protect the privacy of individuals and remove the bureaucratic burden of health data management from organizations. We hope this will enable us to return back soon.